down with Mike Matthews of Electro-Harmonix, new sensor. Basically the guy that goes to for tone, as far as I'm concerned. When did you introduce the Big Muff?
Okay, when I had the LPB1, I had this little box. So I had actually 5 products, for one of the products I wanted to put in that box. One was the Ego microphone booster, which is really the same as the LPB1. One was the Screaming Bird, a treble booster.
Yeah.
Made your guitar sound like a harpsichord, whose strings are whipped instead of plucked.
Wow.
And then there was the Mole bass booster, and then the little fuzz was just 2 transistors, a little overdrive. And so I called that Muff fuzz, because it had a muffled sound. It's funky. And then about a year later, we came out with the Big Muff. And we call it Big Muff because I had the Muff, so I figured, well, you know, I had that name already sort of established. And that was around 1969, maybe early 70. And in fact, Jimmy, because I was best friends with Jimmy back when he was Jimmy James, and that's how that happens, a long story. But when he came back to New York as Hendrix and he would record at different studios, he always used to invite me down to his recording sessions. And Henry, the owner at the time of Manny's Music, told me he just sold Jimmy a Big Muff, so I saw him using one on the floor. And also, in 1971, I got a mail order coupon from Carlos Santana, Santana check, Santana letterhead, and he ordered a Big Muff, Carlos Santana. This is back, and we're still building and selling Big Muffs.
Yeah,
you know, thousands of them a month after all these years.
So you guys do a lot of you moved over to Russia, like when did you?
Well, what happened is Electro-Harmonix had the first go-around Electro-Harmonix had what I said, its peak in the late 70s, and at that time we were selling a lot of stuff to countries, you know, communist countries like Yugoslavia, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland. One day in 1979, I got a letter from Russia inviting us to exhibit at the first trade show in Russia for consumer products that was open to Western companies. So I said, shit, I'm selling all this stuff to these other commie countries. This is a heart of communism. I got to go to Russia. And usually I would go with just one guitar demonstrator. This Russian, I got carried away. The music's in my blood. I got all my favorite musicians. Cookie, this fucking great drummer, that and Willie McGee, a great R&B backbeat guitar player. We had 6 pieces. Me, I played keyboards, and we went over there. We got over there, and there was only one other American company, Levi, the dungaree company. There was about 20 Japanese companies, 30 German companies, some third world countries at the time, like Colombia or India, they had their own buildings. There's sort of a big park called Sokolniki Park in Moscow. Anyway, this was 79, and in the end, what happened was, they wanted to buy our products, these different organizations, but they had no money. So in that sense, the show was a bomb for immediate business. But it got me thinking, if they had no money, then they needed money. So I started thinking, well, what could I buy from Russia? And the first thing I started to think of, and then got involved with later on, was selling cheap, what we call jelly bean integrated circuits made in Russia. Because this was a cyclical thing, you know, they would be super cheap, sell for 15 cents a piece. All of a sudden, when new ICs became hot, they'd stop making them, and these jelly bean ICs would sell for 15 cents, all of a sudden be $1 or $2, or you couldn't even get them. So I started to sell Russian ICs, and then one day in 1988, when I went over, in those days everything was centrally controlled, I saw hanging on the wall at the Ministry of Electronics vacuum tubes. I said, shit, the vacuum tubes, those are used in guitar amps. So I said, send me some. They sent me some vacuum tubes, and you know, I took them out to a friend of mine, Jesse Oliver. He's the guy that designed all the Ampeg amps, and a really good bass player. He still plays. I said, Jesse, and are these tubes any good? He says, yeah, Mike, tested them out. These are good. So I got involved with the tubes, stopped with the integrated circuits. That's how I really got involved with Russia.
And then you started making the Sovtek amps.
Well, yeah, I started making the Sovtek amps, and eventually I ended up buying the whole tube factory because they were bankrupt, and they had, if not, then the bank would have foreclosed and liquidated them. It's Russia. It would take me hours to tell you.
Yeah.